Okay, welcome, folks. We're coming to the midpoint of the holiday of Pesach and coming to also the last days of Pesach, which we will prepare. A mimer, the discourse that the Rebbe said in 1979. Yeah, I was there. Actually, I think. Yeah. So, is like the days that you went out of Egypt, I will show you wonders. Like the days that you went out of Egypt. This is from Tanakh, from the prophet Micha, a verse. So just like then, when you went, I will show you wonders. So this is based on a discourse from the previous Rebbe, who was exacting on a understanding of this from the Zohar. What's unique over here? Like the days I took you out of Egypt. Not like the day, because we went out on a day. In one day, we went out of Egypt. Doesn't say that. It says like the days, plural. What's the plurality over here? Every day, we mention a verse in Devarim, Parshas Re'eh, Deuteronomy, the 5 books of Moses. And it's one of the 6 things that we have to remember every day. And what is this particular one? Laman Tisko, in order that you should remember, is Yoim Tzeitzcha, the day you went out from the land of Egypt. In other words, it's not just Passover that you have to remember, right? You have to remember every day. Pesach night, the Seder, so it's an emphasis to recount the story in a largesse manner. But it's something we have to remember every day. But what are you remembering? Not the days, remembering the day. So, of course, we need to understand, what does it mean? Why would it say in the verse from Micha, the days in plural? So he explains in the discourse that all of the days since we went out of Egypt, since the Jewish people, which is the birth of a Jewish nation, right? Until the final redemption, which is Yemei Tzeischa, Yemei are the days. In other words, we started something going out of Egypt. We only began, just as there's the birth of the Jewish people only began then, right? Birth means, you grow up, right? You grow up. So it began a process, and that's why it's in the plural. Because Egypt means in Hebrew, comes from the word Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim means Meitzar, limitations, the straits, the Nile, the straits of the Nile, right? Meaning the limitation. It was their limitation. How so? It was their God. They limited their God, right? Of course, why they limit their God? We all limit our gods. Why? Because for what benefits us? Well, that gave them great benefit because it irrigated their land and gave them produce and gave them livelihood. So it became their God. Well, that's a limited God. But that's the whole idea of Egypt is limitation. We have to go out of that limitation. And even from the greatest limitations, Now theirs was truly idolatrous. And we have to leave those limitations, but even more lofty ones that are maybe not so obvious as a limitation in the way we perceive God and the way we perceive ourselves and the way we perceive the world. Like right now, you might look at the world and say, especially what's going on in Israel, is, well, Mashiach can't come today. Oh, that's putting a limitation on God. That's even putting a limitation on ourselves. So there's a constant going out of the limitations that began when we left Egypt. And every day we have to go out of those personal and collective limitations until we come to the final and true redemption through Mashiach, our righteous one. And then there will be truly going out of our limitations. Again, even the most lofty ones. And as it's written also in Micha, Ola paris lefanenu, that the one who will break through will come up. How is the word peretz says, peretz is one of the children of Tamar. From the union of Yehuda and Tamar comes Mashiach, because from Yehuda comes King David, and from King David comes Mashiach. So the word peretz, same word, means to break through. He broke through because there were twins. The first one put his hand out first, but then he kind of jumped him and came out first. So Mashiach is called the one who will break through. What is he breaking through? All limitations. All limitations and boundaries. That's what Mashiach does. Now, what does that mean, all limitations, boundaries? It means so much, we could, bring just on this notion. But, the very fact that we feel that I can't, I can't be the Beinoni who has mastery over thought, speech, and action. I can't be the one who can change the world for good. Those are, you might say, pretty legitimate, maybe, limitations. Mashiach breaks through all of that. Mashiach and us breaks through all of that. And more. Continues now in the Maimer. That's the first point. So now we understand why it says like the days, because it's a process of going out of Egypt that began with going out of Egypt on a particular day. Yes, you got to remember that day. But you have to remember that day that is only the beginning of a process. And we're continuously going towards final redemption. And the way we do that is by breaking all the limitations. Now, continues in Maimer, it says, as in the verse says, like the days that you went out of Egypt, right? That's the plural. Then it says, Aren flois, I will show you, God will show you, show us, will show us actually. Niflois. Niflois means wonders. In other words, just like there were wonders when we went out of Egypt, for the final redemption, there'll also be wonders. Yeah. Again, that's going on the revelation of the final redemption, that the final redemption will also be on such a level, such a lofty level of God will show us wonders. Well, definitely what's going on in Israel is wonders. We have to break through our limitations and see them. Not to say that there isn't pain at the same time. Maybe that's part of the wonder, is that you can feel the pain and still be moved by the wonderment of what's going on and the wonders of God. Yeah. So the final redemption, it's also going to be of wonders. Yishleimer says the Rebbe, you could say, that the Rebbe, as every as every mimer is always, explaining a previous teachings. So in the previous Rebbe's teachings, as he's explaining, that the fact that the wonders that God is going to show and reveal in the final redemption is in order to explain further the reason of why the verse says, like the days I take you out of Egypt, that it's in plural. Even though when it comes to the obligation to remember, what are you remembering? One day, right? Because it was one day they went out of Egypt, right? Singular. Because since we're talking about the final redemption and seeing the wonders in the final redemption, so that's explaining as this is the completion of going out of Egypt. Meaning, what does it mean to go out of Egypt? Going out of your limitations, right? Even the most lofty limitations are limitations. Being idolatrous is a very base, coarse form of limitation, right? And the person, but even the most lofty ones, again, me being very humble and saying like, who am I? What could I? That itself is a more lofty one because it may be in a real sense of humility that, the Rebbe is going to bring the redemption. The Rebbe gave it over to us and it's ours to do. So we can't fathom. I recall that when the Rebbe spoke, it's coming up. Um, 11 months to the day before he had a stroke, the 28th of Nisan. Today's the 19th of Nisan, 1991. Just 30 3 years ago, famous Sikha, that I've done everything I can, and now I'm giving it over to you to bring the final redemption. And we all couldn't take it. What do you mean? We're going to help you, Rebbe. Like, we're your soldiers. You're the general, right? And for 3,000 years, that's the way it was. Over 3,000 years, right? Since going out of Egypt, over 3,300 years, that's the way it was. A foot soldier is helping the general, helping the king to win the war. But we're only foot soldiers. And then took us out of our limitation. You're not just a foot soldier, you're also the general. We could, yeah, we couldn't, we didn't accept it. I mean, accept it. They never said it, so, but in other words, it goes against, anything and everything. Then Rebbe gets a stroke, and then after that, Gimel Tammuz happens. So it's been a slow process for us to get it.
1991, you said he passed away.
No, 1991 is when he said these words that I've done everything, and now it's up to you. I'm giving it over to you to bring the final redemption. And 11 months to the day, the Rebbe had his stroke. Obviously, the Rebbe knew what was coming. And he was, slow. It was a process to give us, just like we're talking about a process over here. Yeah. So in order that this revelation, so in other words, so even though remembering going out of Egypt is a one day to remember, right, about going out of Egypt, but at the same time, it's a process that is coming to conclusion with the coming of Mashiach. Right, so you're remembering going out of Egypt, right, in a singular form every day, but at the same time, we're recalling that it is a process that only began with going out of Egypt. It didn't conclude then. It's a process that, and therefore, that's why it says in plural form, like the days going out of Egypt, because the whole idea is going out of Egypt the first time is only that you should go out of your limitations ultimately. We went out of limitations then, right? No one thought anybody could leave Egypt. It was, a very well-controlled environment. And we kind of got used to it, even though. So we went out of that, but that was only the beginning of going out of limit. That was going out of a very, that we're servants of servants. We're slaves unto others. So we got out of that. But then we became slaves unto our own limitations, not imposed limitations by the Egyptians, but our own. And we have to go out of that. And that's a process that will started the tzinor, the path with going out of Egypt, literally. And every day we have to see that we're going out of Egypt until we come to the final redemption. It will be out of the ultimate limitations, all boundaries, the final redemption. Okay. More to come. Stay tuned. All right. We'll see you shortly. Bye, Chumash Rashi. Thank you.